What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. We are going to break down our thoughts on the 2019 WWE Royal Rumble that just went down a few minutes ago and give you our first impressions of everything that just happened before we get a chance to get into how they mess some things up and they get all kind of crazy on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown afterward. And just to kind of start things off, we need to introduce who we are. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango, and as always, I've got with me Robert DeFelice.
It's time to discuss the Rumble that actually consisted of men and women, but we'll get to that.
And Callum Wiggins.
Is it 2020 yet?
Oh god, it feels like it. This fucking show is long as hell.
Yes, indeed. We are only starting this at like 12:30 because they just ended it at like, midnight. So, this was maybe the longest pay-per-view that they've ever had. Really? I think.
Felt like it. And WrestleMania this year was longer than this.
The one where Taker supposedly retired but really didn't against Roman was the longest.
Do you remember offhand when that ended?
12:10 or so.
Oh, very neat. At least it's very close. And I noticed when we got like halfway into the night, I was just kind of like, we have at least like a full hour-long thing left. This is going past that time. We've got lots of things to talk about, but we might as well start things off with the pre-show. And the pre-show consisted of a lot of the normal kind of stuff that you would have seen. You know, we had like the pre-show panel giving their analysis of all that other kind of junk, and some spots here and there from like Shawn Michaels popped up a little bit, and JBL was there hanging out with Charlie Caruso, and nothing really all that entertaining. If we ignore the matches themselves, what do you guys think about this? I thought that this was a really lackluster pre-show for the other stuff. All the promos were kind of blah.
I thought that Shawn Michaels' appearance was probably one of the better Shawn Michaels appearances that I've seen on a pre-show. He seemed more well-spoken and not like stuttery and all over the place. And he announced halftime heat, and that was pretty cool.
I had it on mute because every time that there was some sort of talk, you had Jonathan Coachman talking or you had JBL talking, and I don't want to listen to either of those things. So anytime there wasn't a match on, just on mute, do something else instead.
Well, we did have one little section for that Royal Rumble burger. And we were all sitting there going, that burger looks like it's holding up pretty sturdy. Like, that's not moving at all. And I don't know. Sometimes that could be a good thing. Sometimes it could be a bad thing. It's either like, that's great. They really figured out, how to hold this together. Or it was like, what the fuck's this made out of if it's not, like, at least jiggling a little bit or something. Take out the coleslaw, I'd eat it. But we did get 3 matches, which we were only promised 2 of them. And the first one was something that's pretty impromptu. It was, out of all things, Bobby Roode and Chad Gable defeating Rezar and Scott Dawson. Because if Rezar and Scott Dawson won, both of their tag teams would get title shots. And it's like, so they teamed up like that because Akam is injured, so I guess they figured that that's a way to highlight the Raw Tag Team division, which is an awful way to do it. Because first off, nobody gave a shit. And second, you had to have the Revival guy take a pin again.
Oh, don't worry, though. They're going to revamp everything, and they're going to refocus on the tag teams and the Revival, and everything will be great.
Yeah, I'll believe
There's
that.
There's only one reason you'd put that sort of match on, and that's if you weren't going to have the tag champions win. Because the only consequence is if they don't win, and then they still won. Because you can't just put 2 random guys with 2 different tag teams together, and that's the thing that made the most sense out of it, is the fact that you put 2 random guys from 2 different tag teams together, and funnily enough, they're not coherent enough to defeat the tag team champions. So that makes sense, but it just means that it's just there to kill 5-10 minutes of time that you couldn't fill with more talking.
That was interesting enough that they decided to pair them up. Like, I'll give them credit for that, but I think it would have been better if they just had like a triple threat, like Rezar versus Scott Dawson versus Chad Gable or something. But even then, it's still just not worth it, really, because this didn't do any fucking favors for the Raw Tag Team division. If anything, this just makes it look even worse.
Well, I had to kind of grit my teeth and let it go because it was impromptu. It was inconsequential, basically. And I'll give them credit. The entrances looked really cool in that arena. That was my takeaway from the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add. They didn't give enough time or build to anything regarding this, so it's not really worth talking about that much.
To me, it's the type of thing that if Vince thought that this was a good idea that would win him some brownie points, nah, it kind of did the opposite. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't like, they shat all over something, but at the same time, it was nothing. And if anything, it just makes the Revival look worse, and it just proves how shitty the Raw Tag Team division is. So, way to expose your flaws, I guess. Then we had the United States Championship match, Rusev losing the championship to Shinsuke Nakamura. Did not see that one coming. I assumed that not only it was Rusev going to retain because he just won that title about a couple weeks ago, but on top of that, it's the pre-show. And it was like, well, who cares? Why did you bother giving it to Rusev anyway? And all this other kind of stuff. So at least I'll give them points for being shocking, I don't know if I really like it, though. When they had this whole title on Nakamura before, they didn't do jack shit with it. What am I supposed to think that they're going to do this time,
Jack shit, but a fatal 4-way at WrestleMania. Actually, no, I'll get into what I think, because I just remembered what happened in the Rumble match itself. So I'm sure they set him up for a future challenger.
Yeah, I enjoyed the match for what it was. It had a slow start because obviously they hadn't put a lot of focus onto the United States Championship in recent weeks and months. But I think the way the match was structured and the performance they were both putting into it, despite the fact that it was on the Kickoff show, they actually wanted to put in a good effort and give a good showing to the fans. And the crowd did start to get into it towards the end, especially with Rusev powering out of like that guillotine choke, similar to how Bianca Belair had done it in the previous night. And then you have the finish, which is essentially Nakamura's trying to pull the turnbuckle pad off. The referee doesn't seem to care that he's pulling the turnbuckle pad off. He's just standing around like, oh Lana's on the apron.
That was so stupid. Lana's sitting there holding her shoe, and she's like, look at that. And the guy's like, what, you want me to look at the left? I don't want to look slightly to my left. Oh, I'm going to look slightly to my right instead. Fuck you.
You're cheating! She's screaming at the top of her lungs, and she takes off her shoe for some reason, which, admittedly, I thought, okay, so is she yelling that he's cheating because she's about to throw the shoe to Rusev, and Rusev is going to cheat? And that didn't happen, so...
Oh, no, the reason she took her shoes off is because she knew that she was about to take a bump off the apron onto the floor, and nobody's stupid enough to take a fall like that in high heels. So, and Rusev hits into her. She falls off the apron, twists her ankle, which plays into a story later on in the night. But, and it leads to Rusev losing the title. In the same exact way that Lana originally got hurt, it was actually all Rusev's fault. Because he's a dumb babyface.
You know what was funny? He didn't necessarily even show concern. He's just like, Lana, get up. Lana, get up. Lana, get up. And then he gets hit.
Lana. Come on, Lana.
Oh, God. And
Get
then
up, babe.
Kinshasa, 1, 2, 3.
This took me by surprise, and it may be something that's good in the future, but between the way that they've handled the United States title and the way that they've handled Nakamura and the combination of those two, I can't have good faith that it's going to go somewhere fantastic. And we will talk a little bit later on about something that's going to come into play, and I think that we're probably going to talk about the same thing, but I can definitely see a Fatal 4-Way happening at WrestleMania, and that's just so lazy.
Yeah.
Then we had the Fatal 4-Way for the Cruiserweight Championship. Buddy Murphy successfully defending against Akira Tozawa, Hideo Itami, and Kalisto. Pretty good match. Not the best match on 205 Live that we've seen in a while, and not surprising, because, I mean, those three people challenging for that, they weren't really the strongest contenders in the world. But it was fine. Yeah. Not going to really complain too much about it.
It was good.
Yeah, I think Murphy was the glue in this entire match. He was definitely putting in a really good showing. The rest of them were just working off of him. Kalisto was every now and again he goes into like botch mode, a good botcher thing. So other than that, it was pretty fun. It's like takes me back to days where cruiserweight matches were just the fun little filler matches that you'd have, where it was just get all your flips in, get all your nice little tricks in, try and get the crowd excited about it, even though they didn't really care because it's 205 Live, so nobody cares. But yeah, it was still a decent showing.
I like to give a little bit of context when it comes to 205 Live and NXT and that kind of stuff, because when I'm watching it with a big group of people, I'm usually the only one that knows a lot of these because I'm obviously paying the most attention. So we had, what was it, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about like 11 or 12 people watching it. And there's like this big reaction of, oh, are these the 205 Live fuckers? Who cares? And all this other kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, come on, give these guys like a chance. Watch them because they're actually like entertaining the ring. And throughout this match, people are watching stuff, but there was just these sections where people were more into the idea of like, I forget, one of my friends was like, why the fuck are they carrying around piñatas? This screams Vince McMahon. It's so racist. And then Akira Tozawa comes out, and he's got, like the Japanese kind of background. And then Hideo Itami comes out, and they're like, the Japanese music and all this. And they're just kind of like, what the hell? Like, why is it always got to be like, the Middle Eastern guys have to have the camel clutch, and they're related to the Iron Sheik and whatever. And how come all the luchadors are carrying around a piñata and all this? And then, like 205 Live still has not broken any kind of barriers for people that are like casuals, and it's a shame because all four of these guys, I should say, 3 of them more than the other one. There's one of them I'm not the biggest fan of, but they're good they're good to great. That's the thing. Buddy Murphy's really, really good, I think, for instance, and they deserve more credit. So it's a shame to always hear people be just like crap all over something and be like, I wouldn't stick around and watch 205 Live if I went to a SmackDown taping. Screw that.
Yeah, I agree.
Blah. Watch 205 Live, everybody. God damn it.
I do want to ask, what's with the new influx of V-trigger style knees?
Oh, God, yeah, there were so many knees in this. Everybody's hitting a knee.
It's a really easy thing to do and make a loud noise and get the crowd to pop for it.
Gotta slap the leg, baby.
As Kenny Omega has basically done, because half his moveset is just knees to the face.
Slap the leg.
Slap at a base. Let's see. That was the pre-show. Any other things in the pre-show that we need to wrap up?
I guess just the halftime heat announcement, really.
Yeah, they announced that we're going to do halftime heat. We'll probably talk about that a little bit more. We'll probably talk about that with the whole halftime heat thing. I don't know if I'm going to bother doing some kind of like coverage thing for it or not. We'll see. But yeah, halftime heat. We're getting that 6-man tag match out of the NXT people, so that might be fun.
I guess the only other thing of note, at least the I saw, was that in the last few minutes of the kickoff show, the crowd had started counting down with the clock to just like every minute or so they would start just counting down the final 10 seconds and go beep. And then oddly enough, they got rid of the clock from the screen after that point. So I guess they tried to nip that in the bud as soon as they possibly could.
Good for them.
Don't want another Ziggler Rollins incident.
I mean, I encourage people counting down all the time. We were, in the basement, and if we heard that somebody was walking down the steps, we were like, 10, 9, trying to see who it is. Because why not? Got to do something to keep yourself busy. So we started off the night with didn't technically start off. We had 2 hours of a pre-show, but, and one thing, they didn't do the fucking Tumblr again, which is like, God damn it, bring that back. Stop not doing that. It pisses me off.
Yeah, I've been watching old Rumbles, and the Tumblr thing really is fun.
Because it's like, it's not hard to invest in it. All you got to do is get the Tumblr, have those balls. You don't even need to show the person's number. So you really don't need to write out any of them. All you got to do is have those little things.
It's 2019. They don't use tumblers anymore. They just go on randomizer.org and then they just put all their names into it and then you just get the order.
They need to do the picking the tumbler thing. It's like you get some things that are made by hand and they're just better. So they should just fucking do that. Just knock it off, WWE. But we started off the actual card itself with the SmackDown Women's Championship match, which made a lot of sense, especially considering what happened later on. Asuka successfully defends against Becky Lynch. She wins by submission, which was a good way to make Asuka look strong, and didn't really take away all that much from Becky Lynch, I thought. And honestly, I wasn't super invested in this. I kind of just looked at this as like, all right, well, shit's going to happen, and then eventually Becky Lynch is not going to win. So I was kind of checked out a little bit. I was writing up some stuff about the pre-show and all that, and pay the most strict attention to every little detail like that. But from what I did see, it's fine. Like, I didn't see any problems with it. What do you guys think about it? Good, bad, middle?
I thought it was good. We might disagree completely on this, Calum. I thought Becky Lynch shouldn't have tapped out. Passing out would have been fine. A quick pinfall would have been fine. I did expect some type of chicanery, but I just don't think she should have so cleanly tapped out, because for me it took away a lot of the energy that she had going into the night.
Initially I kind of felt the same way, but based on what events would transpire later on in the night, I'm happy with it, because this match was more in the vein of getting Asuka over, as like rehabbing her character after the year that she had in 2018. Now she's in the champion, now she has to look dominant again, and her getting a submission victory over the hottest star in the WWE right now is probably the best way that she could possibly stand out. And this match was like very strong. It's difficult to really judge how the crowd is reacting because it's an open air venue, and so a lot of the noise dissipates very quickly, and it doesn't really come off as strong to the viewer through the network. But they're very hard hitting strikes. They tried to make this as much of an even brawl as possible. Essentially, it was just a case of two women that love to fight people and assert their dominance, trying to do it on each other, and that led to a very good dynamic. I would have liked to have seen a few more submission holds early, because that seemed to be the thing that got the crowd most invested towards the end of it. But other than that, I thought it was very good. I also had to say I'm now fully on board with the holograms they do at the start of their entrances for these big events.
Yeah.
You are? I really like those the virtual reality things?
Yeah.
I still don't like them. I just kind of don't see the point.
Well, you still think that we should have tumblers and stuff like that, Tony? You're very
To me, it's just sort of like I'll put it this way. When I go see movies, I tend not to see 3D movies, because to me, 3D is a gimmick that I'd rather see in like a Disney ride. And that virtual reality thing, it's like, oh man, it's almost as if this graphic of Becky Lynch is really actually heading towards me. Like, it's what? Like, if I want to do an immersive thing, I want to feel like I'm actually immersed in it, not that there's just a 3D element heading towards my eyeballs.
Yeah, I guess I can get that. I think the best spot from the match was probably the fisherwoman's net breaker from the apron to the floor, because I don't think Asuka got as much rotation as she wanted out of it, so they landed quite hard on the floor. And they had Lynch beat a 9 count, because it would have been quite interesting if they had Lynch get counted out to lose it, because that way it still kind of makes her look strong, but it's a less convincing victory for Asuka. So, considering how the night turned out, I'm totally fine with Asuka forcing her to submit.
Because she does need to look strong too. That's the thing. Like, I know that people are so pro Becky Lynch that some people might be like, "Oh, this is burying her because she tapped out." No, it isn't. She's Asuka.
You don't want the SmackDown Women's Tag Title match to be a complete afterthought going into WrestleMania, because we know where this is heading with Becky Lynch. So, but you want Asuka to look good as well, and you want the SmackDown Women's Championship match to get a bit of attention as well. So you need to make the champion look strong going into it then.
Yeah. and we keep saying it. Becky Lynch was fine by the end of the night, so I guess it wasn't the worst thing in the world. It's just for me, being the traditional fan that I am, I just don't think she should have capped.
Do you think it should have been a pinfall instead, or like
No,
count out or something?
I think there's a lot of comparisons to her and Austin. I think she just should have passed out the way Austin did in the sharpshooter.
I think that passing out thing is so overused nowadays. They do that all the time. Like, I don't think Shayna Baszler has actually forced anyone to ever tap out to her submission. They've always passed out. It's very, very overplayed. So I'm okay with people actually tapping out to this stuff.
That's fair.
Everybody wants to be Austin.
Mhm.
Let's see. We went from there to the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match. The Bar against The Miz and Shane McMahon. And we all kind of saw this one coming. Miz and Shane McMahon were going into this as like the most interesting possible elements were, do they turn on each other or do they win the titles? And that was pretty much it. So they win the titles, win by pinfall, after Shane does a shooting star press, which did not see that coming at the very least. And yeah. I thought it was fine. This is more about setting something up for the next few months leading into WrestleMania than it is about this. So I'm okay with it not being like the best match or something,
Right. I still don't get it. I'm gonna be just totally honest. I don't get the Shane McMahon is a tag team guy in 2019. It's weird to me. Mrs. Dad is a highlight of everything that he's ever on, but other than that, it's just weird.
The Bar have had a rough last year or so, in the sense that they're still kind of treated as an elite or gatekeepers for whatever tag team division they're representing, and yet they've, in the last year or so, lost to essentially one man and a 10-year-old at WrestleMania for the tag titles, lost to the thrown together team of Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt for the tag titles, and then also losing now to a 49-year-old Shane McMahon and The Miz in their first real competitive match teaming together. And yet we're still meant to consider them as like the elite team, like they are the Bar. Seems a very easy bar to step over if that's the case. But
well, first of all, don't you disparage the good goddamn name of Nicholas, okay? And yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
Just one thing. That's fine. But the match itself was okay. There's one thing that you have to say about Shane, even though it's so unrealistic that he's competing with all this stuff and they like to treat him as this all-conquering superhero. It's he's fun in the ring every now and again, and the shooting star press shows that he can do some stuff which looks pretty cool for a guy of his age to do. I just wish they'd tell more of a story that he can do this, but only like every couple of weeks or so, or couple of months at a time. Because if he does it too often, his body is just going to completely deteriorate. But he had the coast to coast into the giant swing, where Shane clearly landed right on the back of his head because he has no regard for his body whatsoever. And then you had him swung around about 20 times, and Shane, because he is the best in the world after all, shakes off the swing whatsoever and applies a triangle choke. So just no cells, any dizziness whatsoever, and just locks in that submission. But yeah, I guess it makes the tag team division on SmackDown more intriguing because you have a makeshift team with one of the people being Shane McMahon as the champions now. So I guess that's the benefit, even if it does come across as quite hokey.
Yeah, at the very least, I'm more interested in seeing where they go with The Miz and Shane McMahon as tag champions than if they would have kept it on the Bar and said, well, tomorrow night on Tuesday night on SmackDown, we're going to have the Bar have their number one contenders determined between the Usos, the New Day, the Good Brothers, and Sanity, and a fatal four-way for the number one. Like, I wouldn't have given a shit, At least with The Miz and Shane McMahon, Who do they fight at Elimination Chamber? Who do they fight at Fastlane? When do they lose the titles? Who do they fight at Mania if they don't? Like, there's some elements behind that. And it might not be the storyline that I'm super pumped for, especially considering last year it was like, man, I really hope that they do the whole thing with The Miz winning the championship and Daniel Bryan wins the Royal Rumble. And that's not anywhere close to what we are getting.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. Some big changes.
Fun question. Considering neither one is equipped to actually put their body through what they have, who do you think has more severe damage? Shane McMahon or Vince McMahon?
To their bodies?
Yes.
I would say Shane. Shane takes more high-risk stuff than Vince.
Yeah, but then Vince just injured himself by walking to the ring for 2005 Royal Rumble, so...
And I'm also going to go with Vince because I think he took more just like hard chair shots to the head.
And also his body would be broken down by the steroids he's taken as well and other supplements.
Plus, he did get that one Stone Cold Stunner the one time that turned him into an epileptic person or something. We had the Raw Women's Championship match between Ronda Rousey and Sasha Banks. Not a bad match at all. I liked it quite a bit. And there were some elements I didn't really like about it. Not to say that I loved, start to finish. Like, I'm not a fan of Sasha Banks tapping on the outside and then losing later on. I kind of thought that was like she lost twice. And they really didn't need to do that. But I liked it overall. And the thing that I would complain the most about with this, the post-match stuff bugged me. Because that went on forever.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, all right, if Sasha Banks is going to attack her, just fucking attack her already. And if you're not, go away. How many times are you going to stand around and just like look back and then be like, nope. Okay. No. All right, I'm just kidding. It's like, can you just cut to a commercial already, Can you try to explain to me how I should eat Golden Crisp even though they suck balls? But,
well, that's not entirely on her. It's mostly on the cameraman because she flashes the four fingers and then they kept cutting to her face with this stopping and this scowl that I thought either, she spotted Becky Lynch coming down the ramp to fuck with Ronda, or she was gonna run back and beat the crap out of Ronda. It came across as really weird.
Cameraman had a rough night. We didn't even mention the cameraman that fell over in the first match of the show.
That's true, yeah. Forgot about that.
But I enjoyed this match. It's just another string to Ronda Rousey's bow in the sense that she's having such a strong rookie year that she got paired up with one of the best women's wrestler on the roster, and she held her own and kept up with her step for step, pretty much. I didn't like the fact of Cole saying on commentary that Rousey is in over her head facing someone like Sasha Banks, because regardless of like how long Rousey's been doing this compared to Sasha, you shouldn't really be saying that about the Raw Women's Champion at any point in time, that, she's not ready for this sort of challenge. Like, look, she's got the belt, so why didn't Sasha challenge her immediately for the title then, if that was the case?
Yeah. And especially a judo champion, an Olympian, and a UFC Hall of Famer.
Well, the most dominant woman in the UFC history, who has beaten everybody on the roster so far, has not lost a single match except for the one that she didn't get pinned at or anything. And I don't know, she could beat the one who's had a title 4 times and never successfully defended it.
But you guys don't understand. It's boss time.
There was a lot of like good transition submissions. I like the fact that Banks was going after the arm. So just to play off the fact that that's Rousey's bread and butter, to attack the arm, Sasha managed to get through it because after Rousey punched the ring post, and then immediately starts to attack with a bunch of like Fujiwara arm bars and other arm stretches. So that's good to see. It looked like Ronda's so good at selling. She looked in so much pain when she was under the thing. It looked like she was about to burst into tears at the thought of even considering tapping out. And then you have like connects with the Piper's Pit for the pinfall. It's odd to see. It's very rare to see Rousey win a match by pinfall. Just,
she and Brock switched places tonight, didn't they?
Yeah, it was just maybe just sense that Rousey's learning. Maybe they just wanted to get that point across that Rousey's not just a one-trick pony where she can only force you to tap out. She does have moves that can lay you out for a free count as well.
Overall, though, I mean, there were the hiccups with like the ending and some other kind of stuff, but I liked it. It was one of the better singles matches of the night, I thought.
I think it was one of my favorites. I don't know if I class it as my favorite, but it's definitely one of the top 2, I think, matches for me of the night.
Yeah, it delivered for me. You guys know I love Sasha Banks, and Ronda's never had a bad match that I've seen, so kudos.
I think it would probably be my number 2 outside of the Royal Rumbles. I think I'd actually go with the Fatal 4-Way match as my number 1 favorite singles match. Because I'd said before I didn't really pay too much attention to the Asuka Becky Lynch one, so
the Fatal 4-Way was your favorite singles match.
Oh wait, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. My favorite non-Royal Rumble match then. Yeah, there we go. That's how we'll constitute that.
I'm definitely incorporating the Rumbles in my one for this as well, in terms of like match quality, because they're definitely not the top 2 for me.
Yeah, these weren't fantastic.
I mean, I can't 100% disagree. I will say that I did enjoy the 2 Royal Rumbles more than anything else on the night. But let's go into the first one that popped up, which was the 30-woman Royal Rumble match. And, of course, we're going to try to break this down as much as we can without going on for 17 fucking hours because, we don't need to go through every single entrant and
why
every
not,
single
Tony?
thing.
They sure did. This fucking Royal Rumble took forever. This specific match is where I kind of went, all right, this is taking way too long.
It seemed like it went on a long time, I think, because we had one elimination very early where Liv Morgan, who was number 4, she got eliminated in about, 10 seconds or so.
8 seconds is what they classified it as.
Okay, so 8 seconds of that. And then we didn't get another elimination until after Tamina came out at number 10. So we had already gone through, a solid match length with only one elimination at that point. And that kind of stretches things out a little bit, I think. Of course, it did go on, long just in general, but we started things off with Lacey Evans and Natalya. I thought that Lacey Evans cut a pretty crappy promo to start. Not her best work.
Yeah. It's very WWE promo. Very written material that she's forced to deliver in a ridiculous accent.
As much as I think that Lacey Evans has a fantastic look to her and she's got quite a bit of talent, this made me nervous. I don't know if she's going to make it.
Speaking of looks, do you think Vince McMahon had anything to do that you had 4 white blonde women come out?
You sure did. That's what I noticed as well. It was like they all were white and blonde, and poor Natty got stuck with a lot of inexperienced girls in the beginning, with Mandy Rose being number 3 and Liv Morgan at 4. But I just want to say, I'm really enjoying over the top, ridiculously horny Corey Graves. It so doesn't fit that it's making me laugh even harder than when Lawler was genuinely being that way on commentary. When he asked if he could get the napkin that Lacey rubbed her pits on and threw at Mandy, and just the girls on commentary were just repulsed. One of my favorite things of the night.
I didn't actually catch that about the napkin. That's actually really gross and funny. What did you guys think about the Liv Morgan thing? Because she gets tossed out. She runs into the ring and gets immediately back body dropped. Very much in the style of Owen Hart from
95.
Ooh, 90, was it 95 with a Bulldog?
95, yep.
Wasn't there another one too? Didn't he do that in 80, 88 or something, or 90 or whatever? Didn't he get tossed out really quickly too?
No.
Huh. Maybe I'm just thinking of 95 then.
I just assumed this was her punishment for hurting Brie Bella's leg all those months ago.
All right, thank you, Cal.
We had Mickie James after that. We had Ember Moon, Billie Kay. Billie Kay did a fun little thing where she was just like, nope, I do not want to come in here until I have my friend. I'm not coming in.
Fuck this spot. It's a ridiculous thing. Why does anyone enter the Royal Rumble match when there's no consequences for not entering the Royal Rumble match.
We had a few of those. This year, they really fucked with the rules. We had a lot of like, oh, so this is a thing that you can just do?
I'm gonna complain about a couple little things like that. I wasn't annoyed about the Billy Kay one though.
That was funny because it's Billy Kay and Peyton Royce, so I can just about understand that. If that was the only incident of it, then I would have been fine with it. It's just it was a bit overkill by the end of it. Also, I'd be remiss by saying that despite all the inexperience that was in the ring, Mickie James not being able to put a kick anywhere near Matt Riddle's face.
Yeah.
That was awful.
And then a punch not anywhere near Mandy Rose's face.
I just want to say, overall, the first half of this Rumble is some of the worst wrestling I've seen in the last few years in WWE. Like, and I know it's awful to say because it's women in the ring. You don't want to be too disrespectful because people will take it the wrong way. But there was some really awful botches in the first half of this match.
Now, listen, I'm all for the women's evolution, but fuck that. If they were bad, they were bad, and there was some bad stuff in the beginning.
No, I mean you can't deny Mickie James whiffed that, and it was awful. Like that should go down as one of the stupidest botches of the year because that was just real bad. Like that wasn't even close.
I mean, it was soon followed up with like when Peyton Royce got into the ring of her trying to do a roundhouse kick and only hitting her opponent in the hip. Pretty much couldn't even get her. Like, stop doing these big spin kicks if you can't lift your leg higher than like their thigh or whatever. Just it was just a bad night for a lot of people.
I like that they gave Nikki Cross a little bit of a spotlight where she was kind of just like, acting like Nikki Cross, just kind of being herself. I liked Peyton Royce's gear. that was kind of interesting. Did not like how Tamina stuck around for quite a while. When she came in, she eliminates Mickie James, and I'm like, God damn it! Like, why are you eliminating people? You should be eliminated yourself. And she lasted all the way up until number 14 was already in there. So she lasted 4 different people. No, that shouldn't be the case when it comes to Tamina. We had. Oh, go ahead.
As I say, I'll give her credit that she wasn't the worst performer of the entire match, which is a step up for her.
We had 11 was Xia Li.
That was very much a surprise.
Very much so. None of us had her in our lists as far as like potential surprises.
I bet Sean Deng was marking out. just going crazy on commentary.
It's like, I'm changing my pick.
I hope Ho Ho Loon, wherever he is, had a smile on his face.
So I liked seeing Xia Li there. That was a nice little touch. Sarah Logan pops out. Nikki Cross gets eliminated by the Iconics. Charlotte Flair shows up, and it's like, all right, well, there goes Xia Li. And let's just try to keep things going and all that. Then Kairi Sane. So for the second year in a row, Kairi Sane pops up. And I thought that was going to be like, well, no, they're not going to do that twice. Very surprised about that. But, we all like Kairi Sane here. Did she eliminate Sarah Logan as well as with Natalya, or was it just Natalya? Because I have my notes down as Sarah Logan is eliminated by Natalya, quote, and Sarah Logan, or parentheses, not quote.
I think, same was the one that hit the elbow, and then I think same was about to eliminate her, and then Natalya helped her and get the final bit of Logan over. So
it's more just Natalya.
I count it as a double.
I guess we're going to have to see how WWE classifies those a little bit. But some of those things are always hard the night of the Royal Rumble. Like the timings are a little bit off and some different things like that. Number 15 was Maria Kanellis. And Maria is my candidate for the worst performer of this match.
I loved the little giddy up spot. And she just gets speared. For some reason, that just made me laugh. Because she does the Bronco Buster, but like, people don't know how to react to the Bronco Buster in 2019. Maria does kind of feel out of place. Not so much that I think Charlotte should have screamed out, "You don't belong in this ring," which you could argue is just her character. But yeah, Maria definitely doesn't fit in this era.
Maria's performance during this and the fact that all this hubbub is happening with her and Mike Bennett and the whole winning the leave thing makes me think, you know what? If I were WWE, I would just say, fuck it, just leave. Like, what are those two going to bring to the table at this point,
she was pretty horrendous. But it's not really her role to be a wrestler anymore.
It never was, arguably.
No, she was never any good at it, really. So I'm not surprised that she put in a pretty ropey performance here.
We had what I considered to be one of the. Oh wait, no, I'm jumping ahead here. We had Naomi came out. Then they did this whole thing, which was kind of fun, kind of not. I'm gonna bitch and complain and nitpick a little bit. Mandy Rose gets Naomi set up for a powerbomb. And then they essentially set up this idea of Naomi doing the same thing that we've seen already before, which now, at this point, Naomi has saved herself twice at the Royal Rumble, and all she's done is two things that we've seen other people do. So, already, I mean, the first year it was like, all right, maybe they couldn't think of anything. I don't want Naomi to do that again. Next year in the 2020 Royal Rumble, don't give Naomi the spot to do that if she's not going to do anything new. If she's just gonna copy and paste what Kofi's done, then she doesn't need to do it.
But somebody made up for it later, so
Thankfully, that's the good thing here, because I had joked before about that. I thought that it would be really fun to see Kofi not save himself, and I liked how with this one Naomi saves herself, and Mandy Rose just goes, "Nah, fuck you," and just eliminates her. That was good. That made up for it to me, because I was like, all right, well, underwhelming save, yet good job for Mandy to keep this feud going,
I can't wait until this is a SmackDown Women's Title feud in sometime in late 2019. I'm so convinced they're putting the title on Mandy Rose very soon. Not super soon, like probably post WrestleMania time, but before SummerSlam, Rose is wearing that title.
Well, some people are going to be upset about that because they don't want her to be wearing anything extra. Corey. Lacey Evans gets knocked out by Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair, of course, ended up being, the star of this whole thing for a lot of the match. We get Candice LeRae at 17. Nice to see that. Candice hasn't been doing shit for a long time, so it was good to see her get a little bit of a bump.
It was quite clear she's never wrestled Emma Moon before. They were very clunky together as well. It's people that are good in the ring. They're really good wrestlers, and there's just something about this match that was throwing so many people off.
Well, then we had Alicia Fox come out. And this is one of my biggest low points of the entire night. I have that whole page on smark@moment.com, for anybody who doesn't know, of Royal Rumble statistics and records and trivia and different things like that, where I spell out that there's a lot of things that happen every single year. Maybe not necessarily every single year, but for instance, a lot of the time you get people that save themselves from elimination nowadays. A lot of the time you get people that accidentally or on purpose eliminate their tag team partner. Sometimes we get somebody get attacked before they can enter the ring, so on and so forth. And one of those things is what I refer to as the action stops, which is we're focused on something that has nothing to do with really the continuation of the Royal Rumble, and it's essentially just like a fun little stupid spot, I was surprised we didn't get the dance break for either people.
Yeah, what the fuck?
And that, to me, I think just proves that was a mistake to put them in the number 30 spot, because they would have done it if it wouldn't have been the case. And instead, we get this thing with Maria and Alicia teaming up so that Maria can take Alicia's hat and stomp on it. And then Alicia, jumps on the floor and has a tantrum.
Has a full-on tantrum. And my favorite thing is mid-tantrum, Tom Phillips is like, by the way, the hat is fine. The hat took no damage. And he's just laughing. I think it's just, what a stupid moment. And for me, I mentioned to you guys, I had entered a Royal Rumble pool, and 18 was my number. And as soon as I heard Alicia Fox's music, I just dropped. God damn it. And
this was go ahead.
By the way, this proves why the Divas division was stupid. Come at me all you want. Maria and Alicia doing a bit of that hat is like why the Divas division wasn't great. Why it wasn't even remotely good. Go ahead.
This was awful. Like it's the worst kind of comedy. If it was good comedy, then I'd be fine with it. But it was just so like it's. I mean, they
It's
think
not
that
funny.
the tantrum thing with Alicia can be funny, and she has been funny in the past with it. But this was just like so stupid that they were messing around with each other and then bumping each other and saying, "Oh yeah, we're so great together." And then for no reason whatsoever, Maria just decides to attack the hat. It's like, okay, you've got a teammate in this who's going to try and help you eliminate people, and yet you immediately want to attack her hat and just whine about it afterwards. It's just terrible stuff.
Yeah, this was really just a perfect example of if somebody backstage laughed about this, it probably was Vince, and that's probably why it happened, or whoever else it was. I hope Vince shot them a look of just kind of like, you're not fucking writing this shit anymore, because this was not funny, and it was the worst example of why you would want to stop the action of the Royal Rumble, because at least when you can do things like the Mr. Sacco and the snake thing with Santino, that was funny. It's stupid and it's silly and it's ridiculous, and casual people watching it would be like, why does this guy have a sock on his hand and the other guy got a fake snake thing, and why are they fighting each other like this and stuff? And it's like, well, it's because it's dumb. But then you watch something like this and you're like, yeah, I've got no defense for it. It's just flat out stupid. And
Also, I just would say that just before we go beyond it, because I don't want to hold this up too much longer, but when Maria was entering, she took so long to get to the ring that you had Charlotte and Lacey Evans basically staring at each other for about 30 seconds, just not knowing what to do until Maria could get in and do her little spot with them.
yeah, I didn't notice that.
There's a lot of times we're just like Lacey Evans and Charlotte Flair just staring at each other for a good 30 to 45 seconds. Just, okay, yep, I see you. Yep, gonna fight in a minute. Okay, yep, still there. Like,
so you ready to
like
check out this hat spot she's been talking about backstage? Number 19 was Casey Catanzaro, and that was somebody that we had brought up before as like, you know what, that would be a good idea to put her in there because she's got that American Ninja Warrior thing, and it's not a real big commitment to put somebody in the Royal Rumble like that. And I'll be damned, Casey was one of my highlights of the entire night. She
Absolutely.
was fucking entertaining. And I started this off with last year when they had announced her as being somebody that they signed. I had her down as a potential release. I thought she was going to be one of those people that comes in, she realizes that wrestling is not for her, and then she just kind of leaves like so many other people have done. And this girl has impressed the crap out of me out of the Mae Young Classic and in this. She did a better job at saving herself with this whole... we'll talk about it a little bit later. But yeah, like just in general speaking, Casey Catanzaro comes in, and that's a big, big thumbs up. We had entry number 20 was Zelina Vega, who comes in dressed up as Vega from Street Fighter. Or if you're from Japan, he's not Vega because they have the Vega and Balrog and Bison switch. So I think that he's Balrog, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because Vega is M. Bison, and Bison is Vega, and Balrog is... it's all over the place. So Vega is Vega. And that was pretty cool. So now she's a Mortal Kombat character, and she cosplayed as a Street Fighter. That's kind of interesting. And as AJ Lee, which is really strange. She does a spot, though, where she goes underneath the ring. And we will talk a little bit more about where that comes into play after a couple more entrants, but Ruby Riott comes out after that. And nothing really going on there that I can remember. She eliminates Alicia Fox. She eliminates Candice LeRae with the help of the other Riot Squad members. So at least they're keeping continuity of the idea that the Riot Squad are teaming up.
Well, no, the important thing to note here is the Riot Squad members had also been eliminated, and they kind of just stuck around because, again, this year it was like, fuck rules. There's no context for anything. Let's just do whatever we need to do.
Yeah, it's just another case of people that were already eliminated were allowed to hang around outside. But so, just like, yeah, you can basically do whatever you want. It's free for all. And I guess there's no rules, but there's usually some sort of decorum to it.
We had after that Dana Brooke. Nothing really going on there. Number 23 was Io Shirai, who comes out to help out Kairi Sane because Kairi Sane had been eliminated by the Riot Squad, but she doesn't really help all that much. She sort of just pops up and then is like, oh, now I'm in the Royal Rumble, so see you, Kairi. That was awkward.
I mean, she hit a
she did the
moonsault on all
moonsault.
people.
The moonsault was good, but it was still just sort of like, I don't know. I didn't get that they worked that out all that well.
I do think they will be in that women's tag team division sooner than later.
That's starting to make me think more about my projection that Io Shirai was going to win that NXT championship, the women's title. I'm thinking that they're going to hotshot her to the main roster quicker than that. I don't think she's winning that championship anymore. We'll see. The 30th is when they're going to do the next set of tapings, so maybe things will change. Number 24 was Rhea Ripley. We didn't get Toni Storm in this like I thought, and instead we got Rhea Ripley, which, you know what, in retrospect, it makes sense because, she's not the champion. So, hey, you know what? I'm down with that. And then this is when the Casey Catanzaro thing comes in, where she saves herself. And she does that by doing something that, honestly, I was like, why didn't they do this before? Which is just, she's on her back. Technically, her feet didn't touch. Okay, I like that. That's fine. And then the way that she maneuvers herself all around and climbs up the ring post and everything, I was like, this is amazing. This is my favorite part of the match already. And of course, she gets eliminated really soon afterward, but that's, standard operating procedure for these kind of things because they build that into the whole idea being, look, if you get eliminated by accident, it's still the same elimination, so you're not going to screw anything up. But great showing for Casey Catanzaro. Definitely a highlight for me.
Fantastic. I cannot wait to see her on NXT or the main roster. I have a funny story. So my niece's nephew loved American Ninja Warrior. So I called my brother to say, hey, by the way, look, Casey's in the Royal Rumble. And he goes, it's going to sound really ignorant, but they have 30 females? They could do a full Royal Rumble with women now?
I heard that same comment of, well, how many women do they have in the main roster? Or not even in the main roster anymore. How many women do they have now? Because one of my friends hasn't been watching it for the past few years. And I'm like, well, they had 23 options before they even counted the other 4. And it was just sort of like, oh, wow, huh, they've hired a lot. Like,
well, that's the interesting thing about this Rumble is that none of the people that entered were uncontracted people. There were surprises like from NXT or stuff like that, or from like just the live events, but nobody's not under contract to WWE and was in for just a one-off appearance.
Yeah. No, that's really kind of strange. I didn't think about that. Which, I mean, they have over 60-something women available between NXT, NXT UK, and I guess technically if you count like Maria Kanellis and Maurice and the Bella Twins and all the other kind of things like that, the Performance Center, the UK Performance Center. So they had a lot of options there.
They didn't lean on nostalgia like they've done in the previous Royal Rumble for it.
That was good. And to a certain extent. Sonya Deville's out after that. Then Dana Brooke gets eliminated. Zelina Vega gets eliminated. And this is where we get the other thing with Zelina Vega had been underneath the ring the whole time. And suddenly, Hornswoggle is under the ring. Which, first question, why the fuck didn't she see him under the ring?
Because, yeah, I mean, he was hiding in a tiny corner.
If anyone knows how to maneuver his way around under the ring, it's Hornswoggle. So
it's a whole world under there, Tony. They have little people's court.
Oh, God, that's right. I fucking hated that so much. Oh, Jesus, that was one of my least favorite things I had ever seen. Oh, why did you remind me of that? My heart, it hurts. Or maybe that's just a heart attack. I don't know. I haven't had a lot of sleep. That explains my breathing. That was stupid. I did not like the idea that they did that. I don't like Hornswoggle. Like, at all. Pretty much ever. So
that's fine. That's a fine opinion. It's an okay opinion to have. Like Vega is chased up into the ring by Hornswoggle, and she gets immediately eliminated by Rhea Ripley, and then chased up the ramp by Hornswoggle because you're allowed to be a pervert if you're small or fat or ugly. So that's the rules essentially in WWE.
We got to talk about a little bit of the shifting through what's happening with the women here. We've seen, with Mandy and Alexa, they added a little bit more sexuality Corey's being a bit of a perv on commentary, and Hornswoggle was just a straight up pervert. I'm not gonna lie, I laughed at this one because it was just asinine. And with what we would see later, it's clear that there is some kind of a shift happening with the women. And it's not all about, well, hey, look, they can put on really good matches.
I think we just have to wait and see how it develops. It might have just been a couple of one-off incidents. But with the Mandy Rose thing, it fits her character to be that sort of... She's someone who uses her looks to get her way. And it's been built into her character for quite a lot. I mean, you see her entrance. She's not doing it to show off her athleticism. She's looking to show off how hot she looks in that outfit. The Alexa thing is a bit just fan service, and there's other stuff going on. We have to wait to see whether it's just a long-term occurrence or it's just something they're doing in the short term to try and artificially boost ratings. That's my 2 cents in it anyway. But, so, where are we up to? So, we had Vega eliminated by Ripley and then Bliss next for it.
Yeah, then we have Alexa Bliss is coming out at that
Biggest
point.
pop of the match so far is Alexa Bliss coming out. She is so over as a face. Because when people started attacking Alexa Bliss, people were booing. It's like, I don't...
Because look at that face.
I don't get it. I do get it. She's ridiculously hot, and people get that side of things for her. And she's really good on the microphone, and she's very charismatic. But goddamn,
wasn't that enough?
Well, it clearly is, because she can't wrestle that well. She can wrestle okay, but not that well. And I guess she was making a return after many people had feared that her career is over and stuff like that. So maybe it gets a little bit more of a boost. But it does kind of just amaze me how popular she is.
I'll be honest. I popped because I forgot that she was coming back for this. So when I heard the music, I was like, yeah, I forgot she's not done yet. And I thought that she might be. So I was happy.
I do appreciate that she managed to outmuscle and outfight the MMA fighter gimmick by just forearming her out of the ring. So, but it is Alexa Bliss, so she can win anything that she wants, really.
That's right.
Let's see. After that, we had Bayley at 27. Bayley came out at 28, I think they had said last year, or 29, one of those two. So I don't quite get it. Why twice they have her right at the end there? I wonder if there's something behind that.
It's an easy pop late in the match, and both times they haven't really had anything for her to do. So it's like, hey, we're gonna put you here. You'll get a pop. You'll stay in the final four, but you won't really do anything because we don't have anything for you right now.
Then we get Lana at 28, and Lana comes out limping from earlier because she had done that whole spot at the United States Championship match, which at least give them credit where it's due with the continuity behind it. And if you didn't watch the pre-show, then that was the type of thing that it was like, well, maybe you should watch the pre-shows. But she gets attacked by number 29, who is Nia Jax. And Nia Jax starts eliminating people. She takes out Io Shirai. She takes out Natalya. Carmella comes out at number 30. And then Becky Lynch comes out and she convinces Fit Finlay to let her replace Lana.
Now, yeah, for context, for the entire 3 minutes or whatever, Lana's in the middle of the ramp, just hurt. She's got medical attendants and producers over her. And then Becky just shows up. And I thought, at the very least, we'd get Vince or Shane or Hunter or Stephanie. I'm surprised we saw zero Stephanie. And say, okay, you're good to go. But no, Fit Finlay, with that Irish pride, just says, all right, go ahead, Becky. And they play her music, and Becky Lynch is in the Rumble at number, might as well be 31.
Yeah, essentially, because she has to wait until after number 30's out, so she's kind of number 28, but she's kind of not number 28, and that's, sort of a thing that's going to be a point of contention. We had our eliminations. Becky Lynch, after she does that, then we get Ember Moon is gone, and Alexa Bliss is gone, and so on and so forth. And we get down to the idea that there's Nia Jax, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair. And I was looking at this as, okay, the two of them team up, they take out Nia Jax, and then we get that whole, both of them fall over kind of a thing. They go instead with this idea that Becky Lynch is injured, and, we might as well award the match to Charlotte after Nia Jax gets eliminated by Becky Lynch. And Becky Lynch continues, and Becky Lynch wins. So I guess we know how this is going to be working, because now the next thing is going to be that point of contention is going to be brought up. Charlotte Flair is going to bitch and complain. She's going to do the whole thing of, she wasn't even in the Royal Rumble, that was Lana's number, and blah, 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 blah. And then we're going to get if you can beat Becky Lynch at Elimination Chamber or at Fastlane or whatever, then you can earn your way and make it a triple threat.
Whoa,
right?
whoa. Why is Charlotte the one getting the shot at that thing? Surely Lana is the one that should be getting the shot at that opportunity.
Well,
Lana's the
It's
one that lost the
WWE and it doesn't
opportunity.
make any sense.
I know it doesn't. I know they'll probably end up going down that route, but it's just the sense of Charlotte has nothing to be unjust about, in the sense that I know Becky obviously wasn't meant to be in the match to start with, but it's not that Charlotte decided to essentially stop wrestling and say, I'm not getting back into the ring until she's eliminated, because she was never in the match in the first place. The fact that Charlotte attempted to win with Becky Lynch doing it means that her argument in that regard is null and void, and they'll still probably do it, but it just means it's a stupid argument. The only one that has any sort of contention towards this is Lana, because she missed out on her opportunity.
Now, I really took a cynical route here. When Becky tapped out, I had said to you guys, I thought they were going to do what they did with Bryan in 2014, where you think he's going to be in the Rumble, and he's not. But they actually found a way for Becky to be in. And again, cynical, thinking, all right, they'll do the double over spot. But no, Becky wins straight up. I think that I would agree with Tony that this is what they were going to do if what happened later on in the night didn't happen. Because clearly they just didn't care about the rules this year. So I think that maybe they just kind of let Becky have this one, and maybe tomorrow night on Raw we see Becky Lynch say, hey Ronnie, I'm here, we're going to fight at WrestleMania.
I hope if they do this triple threat that they at least make it more of Charlotte has to beat Lana and something else. Instead, I don't want Charlotte and Becky in another fucking match at Fastlane or Elimination Chamber, or God forbid, both. And then that ends in, like a double DQ or some kind of nonsense. I don't want to see these matches over and over and over and over and over again. Like, they had a good match at Evolution, but I'm tired of it, And I think the WWE has this crutch so often where they're like, people must like this. It's clearly the top thing, so let's do it over and over. And it doesn't matter if it's on par with what it should be. It's just going to be, well, we keep giving you something that you should like, so, quit complaining, that kind of a thing. And by that point, if they do that match again, that's going to kill my excitement for the triple threat at WrestleMania, because then I'll be like, look, I'm beyond sick and tired of seeing Flair and Lynch together. And it doesn't matter if Ronda Rousey's involved,
I kind of think that they're just going to do Charlotte and Asuka too.
Yeah.
That to me sucks too. Like, it's kind of a lose-lose type of thing. And I think it's because they didn't set them up right for it this past month.
I don't see... I can understand the argument about the Lynch Charlotte thing, why that would be as overkill. I really don't see your argument for the Asuka Charlotte thing. They've had one singles match, and it was the best match in WrestleMania 34. So I really don't see the argument of, besides obviously the Ronda Rousey tag team match, but as to a straight up match, that was the best match of WrestleMania 34, at least in my opinion. I don't really mind seeing it again.
It just doesn't intrigue me anymore. Like, there has to be something. I mean, I'm so inundated with wrestling 24/7, writing up so many things, and I have to write, I mean, let's put it for context for this. I've written up, I don't know how many prediction articles based off of this Royal Rumble, dating back from the previous year, of like, well, this is probably what's going to happen at the Royal Rumble, then this, and that, and that, and that, so on and so forth. Because even if I write up an article about like July of matches that could happen at WrestleMania 35, I have to try to think of what are they going to do with the Royal Rumble, what are they going to do at Fastlane, what are they going to do with this. So I've been living with this for an entire year since the past Royal Rumble, and between all the different options for that, even tonight, I've written up an article on Bleacher Report. We're doing this podcast now. After we do this, when the podcast is editing, I'll be writing up another article of the biggest winners and losers of the Royal Rumble, and then I'll be writing up another article about the wrestling news stuff, and then we got to start getting into the fallout from tomorrow. So it's like, over the course of this whole time, whenever there's one match, it's never just one thing. It's always like 50 times the amount. And when you've already seen Asuka and Flair before, it's just sort of like, well, all right, I saw it last year, and I was more into it last year. And now, if they don't give me some kind of hook, it'll just be like, all right, well then just put it on the pre-show. I don't care, you know? And that sucks, because I want to be super into like every single match. Kind of the same as the Raw tag team situation from tonight. It was like, you're doing something slightly interesting with this random pairing, but it ultimately doesn't matter, and now I don't care. That kind of thing. So blah, but that's how I look at it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that they figure out some kind of way that the main event of WrestleMania is awesome, and that we don't get some kind of just like bland Charlotte situation, but I'm a little bit over the Charlotte Flair kind of thing right now, and I would be perfectly fine if she stood back and just had some kind of, maybe she won the Women's Battle Royal or something. And then we see something else with Asuka. Be fine with that. We will see. I still think she's going to do the bitch and complain, and we're going to get the triple threat, and we're going to get some kind of number one contenders match at Fastlane or something. And then blah. Speaking of blah, though, the WWE Championship match, Daniel Bryan against AJ Styles, which I thought was a complete fucking crap dud.
Well, because I think you and the crowd were just exhausted from the match beforehand. This would have really benefited from, like, put that stupid Raw tag team thing here. Like, give people time to, recover. They were doing perfectly fine in the match, and the match I thought was actually pretty good, but people were tired.
See, I wasn't a matter of tired. I just thought that there was nothing interesting happening. I'm watching it, and I'm like, all right, we have seen this spot, but I've seen it better. And it's really slow, and it's just sort of... Again, this is what, the 6th or 7th match that they've had or something? So, I've seen it all before. There's no intriguing tag to it.
This is another... I obviously agree with you, Tony, in the sense that we've seen this match too often in a short space of time. But also, its context is key. It was coming off in the back of round of a Royal Rumble match, which obviously had gotten the crowd much more attention, where they'd seen Becky Lynch win, and so they were emotionally fueled because of that, but pretty spent by this point. And it's also the fact that this feud has been built up to be quite a grudge match, and this is just a very good technical wrestling match. It's like, this should have been some sort of brawl or hardcore match or street fight or something along those lines, like submission match, if you wanted to go along those sort of lines, just to make anything slightly different. But it's just another match between these two. And the worst thing about it is the fact that it was a screwy finish, which means we're going to see this match again at Fastlane or Elimination Chamber. We clearly are. Styles had a visual pinfall over Daniel Bryan and got screwed. So
I'm hoping that's their attempt to make AJ still look strong, and that we don't just get this again, because for fuck's sake, AJ Styles in 2018 and apparently in 2019, all they've done with this guy has been, we're putting you with this guy for the next 3 months, and that's it. And then they don't try at all. And I don't know if this is like that they think that they can get away with just like, well, it's AJ Styles, anything we do will be great, or maybe this is partially AJ. Like, maybe AJ is not bringing anything to the table with these feuds. But it's so... every match that Bryan and Styles has had could have been potentially like the best match of all time, and they haven't been. And I'm sick and tired of just seeing standard matches between these two, and I don't want to see another match between them, even if it's got the craziest, wackiest gimmicks out there. I'm done. I was done before this, but I'm really done at this point.
So, can we just talk about what the fuck with Eric Rowan?
Yeah, that was. If this is supposed to be the thing that's supposed to make me go, "Wow, man, can't wait to see another match between these two," because Rowan is involved now. Oh God.
I said this in the chat, and I just want to get this out there. I'm getting more convinced that Daniel Bryan is just going to fight Mysterio, and they're literally just redoing the Straight Edge Society, but with more vegan and anti-consumerism values. Because why does Daniel Bryan need Eric Rowan? Because he's a scrawny heel and he needs a heater? Like, what are we doing here?
God knows, but I don't think I'm gonna like it.
Stop. Again, I get the situation. Like, stop shitting on something before it hasn't happened. I know it's WWE. I know we have every reason to suggest that things are going to be shit before it happens. This hasn't, but we've got no indication on this regard. Bryan and Rowan, and I presume Harper when he comes back, could be a very good unit. And I don't see the problem of Bryan being the leaders over these two. These two have clearly shown with the Bray Wyatt Association in the past that they're easily manipulated and brainwashed. So it fits into their overall characters they've had, but allows them to switch it up and have a slightly different gimmick associated with them. And I don't think that there's too much of an issue of having Bryan as the biggest heel on SmackDown, to have some big people behind his back to do some of his dirty work for him, but to still share in the same strong, environmentally friendly, I'm saving the world message that he's been pushing the entire time. So I will. I mean, while I can understand the negativity towards it, I refuse to reserve any judgment on it until at least a few weeks of this tandem working together.
I think that's fair. It's just, for me, I'm seeing repeats of something that I've seen before. And by the way, I'm not saying that what happened with Punk and the Straight Edge Society wasn't successful. I enjoyed that very much. It's just, I don't know if I like this particular pairing, and maybe it's because I'm a little burnt out on like Rowan and Harper changing their ideology every time they go away. They always come back, and they're basically the same people, but with new ideology around who they are. So it's just weird.
The way that I can explain my point of view is WWE is in the business of explaining things in just enough way that it's supposed to make me interested to see what's coming up next. And if their goal is that I should have watched that segment and been like, that was a great match, and wow, man, I'm so excited to see what's happening with Rowan now, they failed. Because I didn't like the match, and I'm like, oh God, I don't know what they're going to do with Rowan now. And they could be doing something great, but that's not the impression I'm getting yet. So they have to sell me on it, you know? They didn't sell me yet.
I would definitely, I can understand that point of view. I think the execution was poor just due to the fact that the match was completely out of place, in the wrong situation. It was the wrong style of match to have, and Rowan's entrance where he just walks down the ramp and then walks around the ringside with nobody really giving any sort of indication. Obviously, they're a bit more intrigued because Rowan's there, and then they just continue the match a little bit. You have the very contrived referee goes down after a missed enziguri, and then Rowan gets involved. So it wasn't the greatest thing in the world, but that I at least.
You guys interested in seeing Rowan and Harper beat the crap out of the Good Brothers over the next 2 months?
Well, well, again, reserve judgment until I've seen what the matches are like, because we haven't seen those two. Well, we've seen them sometime last year, the Bludgeon Brothers against the Good Brothers, but maybe they're slightly different now that they're fighting for vegan rights as opposed to bludgeoning people.
And I really hope that this is not the case, but if this leads up to AJ Styles against Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania, and
that's
the Good Brothers against Eric Rowan and Luke Harper,
I see the
With-
latter before I see the former.
Oh, I mean, that could even worse. We could do AJ Styles against Daniel Bryan, and then we've got Rowan and Harper and the Miz and Shane McMahon and the Good Brothers and like the Usos and a fatal 4-way for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship and whatever.
Which it's the WWE mantra of everyone has to be on the card. So
Ugh, that's what the Battle Royale's for.
Can we also mention this, like going back to immediately before the match started, the guy that was holding the CTE sign in the crowd.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
It was just like it was the mockery of the yes thing, but just with CTE on it instead. I mean, the colour side of me obviously finds that a little bit funny, but like we talked about it earlier before we started recording. You're going to throw some guy out of it for wearing a AEW shirt, but you've got somebody holding a sign up, which is basically promoting the fact that you want Bryan to get CTE again, and he's allowed to just be there. That's totally fine. Different standards, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the Styles and Bryan match. Unless you guys have anything else you want to toss out there.
No.
It's just dull in the space that it was in.
Yeah, a big old thumbs down for me in every single possible way. I didn't like anything about this. Then the Universal Championship match, Brock Lesnar successfully defending against Finn Balor, who put up about as much of a fight as Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles have done in the past, but ultimately he comes up short because that, of course, was guaranteed to happen, and if you thought that it wasn't, I don't feel sorry for you for being disappointed, because you should know your lesson by now. Meh.
My favorite finish to any Brock Lesnar match in quite some time, because I didn't think he was gonna get him on the pinfall, but I certainly didn't think that he would counter a pinfall with a Kimura lock and a tap out. I just really enjoyed the way this match ended.
Oh, this is my other favourite match of the night. Brock Lesnar, when he's facing a smaller guy and he's motivated, is as good a wrestler as you'll get out there. He sold the rib injury that he got by hitting the corner of the announce table fantastically throughout the thing, prevented him from going back to his traditional offensive usual suplexes because he was hurting too badly. And that allowed Balor to capitalise, get a lot more hope spots. The crowd really got behind Balor with this injury to Lesnar, and you get the sense that a lot of people were believing that Balor could actually win this, especially after he hit the third dive over the top onto Lesnar. Also, big shout out to Lesnar for the first one, because it looked like Balor was going to come up really short and Lesnar just moved forward to make sure that he caught him. So, very safe, considerate worker, Brock Lesnar, as it turns out. And then he hits the coup de grace, gets 2 count, and then immediately into the Kimura, forced to tap out. My immediate thought after this, and it obviously didn't turn out to be the case with the Men's Royal Rumble, but I thought a SmackDown guy's winning the Royal Rumble and we're getting this at WrestleMania. But
Like
it would be the Demon against Lesnar instead, because Balor got very, very close, and well, at least in the story, so to speak. So I know we all knew that Lesnar was going to win, and it proved to be that case. But in terms of the story they told, Balor came a lot closer than probably people would expected, it being just a straight up squash match. And he rocked Lesnar, and Lesnar showed that by attacking him after the match, because he doesn't do that to just any of his opponents. He does that to the ones that clearly freaked him out. And even though I don't think this is the WrestleMania match, because obviously what happened in the Royal Rumble, I think we'll get this at a Fastlane or Elimination Chamber, him against the Demon.
I think it's done.
Well, why would you have that finish then?
Because fuck you, Brock
post-match
Lesnar's so much better and he needs to beat the crap out of somebody at the end.
No, I think we're getting the Demon.
There has to be some logic behind it. I know, again, it's WWE, so maybe there doesn't, but it leaves a lot to the thought that Balor gets one more opportunity.
I kind of buy more into the idea that the reason why they did this is because they don't want to pay Brock to come out on Monday Night Raw to do it anyway. Because if not, then we would have gotten Finn Balor come out and he says, I came close, and then Balor would get his ass kicked, because Brock's not going to fight at Elimination Chamber and Fastlane and WrestleMania.
He fights wherever he's paid to fight.
Yeah, I think he'll fight at one of the two. And for what it's worth, this has me excited for Brock's assumed WrestleMania match, because he always goes all out when he's in the ring with a worker. And the only other time we've ever seen Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania with like a workhorse, it was 19, and he did a fucking shooting star press. So let's see what happens here.
I'm a little. No, I shouldn't say a little. I'm a lot just kind of exactly the same way I was last year and the year before that. Just I'm fucking over Brock Lesnar and I don't like any of it. And there's nothing that's going to get me excited about a Brock Lesnar thing anymore. Ever, I think.
I think
They would have to do something like have him put his career on the line and fight somebody who I've never seen him fight before.
I think the when I can obviously understand your point of view because you've held that for quite a while, so I don't expect it to change based on this match. But I'm getting more of the feeling based on every time I see Lesnar in the last year or so that's a personal opinion of yours and not a general opinion. When I used to think that it was like a lot of people were thinking that thing, maybe quite a few people are, but when Lesnar comes out, it's a change of atmosphere, and you can like feel that sense of change, and people like eyes start to widen when he comes out. You can just
This is going to sound really, really shitty at me, but I can't think of a better way to word it. I think everybody else still has their goggles on, and they still buy into the bullshit, and that's why. Because I see so many people all the time, like, over the course of this past 2 weeks, people are like, well, that must mean that Finn Balor's going to win. Isn't that great? We could get Finn Balor in the WrestleMania main event against, like, Drew McIntyre. And it's like, why are you buying into this? Brock Lesnar's going to beat him. Brock Lesnar's going to do about the same as what he did with Bryan and Styles. And it might be fun. It might be okay, but he's going to beat him. And then they're going to fuck off. And then he's going to lose at WrestleMania. Or, worse, he's just going to win at WrestleMania and keep the title some more. And it's just like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 18,000 times. God damn it. How dumb can I be? You know? I don't get the buzz about Brock Lesnar. I understand he's a big deal, but I don't find him entertaining all that much. And I'm more critical of him than some other people are, but I think that that's kind of not so much that I'm super cynical about it, but that I'm not willing to give WWE a 15th chance, kind of. Because every time it's like, well, maybe Samoa Joe's going to beat him. He's not. Oh, maybe Braun Strowman's going to beat him. No, he's not. Oh, maybe Roman Reigns. No, he's not. And it's just whatever, you know. So I go into his matches and I go, all right, well, he's going to do the same couple of things and then he's going to win and then the end. Let's just fast forward button. Like, if I could actually fast forward the live pay-per-views, I wouldn't even watch his matches anymore.
So what do you think is going to So at WrestleMania, considering his opponent, you think it's going to be he's going to win?
I think it's a two-step thing. If he is going to go to UFC and fight, he loses, if not just because WWE would want to put it over on somebody else like a Drew McIntyre type. And then if he is not necessarily doing that, then there's a very, very, very good chance he keeps the title. And then it's just, we're going to wait until Roman.
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
One way or another, the last match of the night was the 30-man Royal Rumble. We started off with Elias, and he's followed number 2 with Jeff Jarrett. So a fun little spot here. They had Jeff Jarrett come out, and they teased that they were going to sing a duet, and Elias turns on him and eliminates him. I liked it. What do you guys think?
You can imagine who wasn't a big fan of this in the Mega Maniacs chat.
Well, I said this before we got on the air. Jeff Jarrett has no shame wearing that fucking makeshift stripper outfit or whatever he's got on. I can't believe they got him to wear that. I think he's just, hey, look at me, I'm in the Hall of Fame. I think that's his mindset right now. But I thought it was funny otherwise.
At least it meant that this Royal Rumble set new history. as this is the most number of Royal Rumble competitors of all time that both have been inside Karen Jarrett. So beats the previous record of 1 in a Rumble match.
Oh,
Well, that we're aware of.
Yeah,
You never know.
and it's just a fun little thing. Jarrett went into the Hall of Fame last year. Just gets to do the thing with Elias. I love the fact that Elias called out the fact that he always gets interrupted, and he doesn't know why.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, and Elias cheap shots him and throws him out. It was a bit of a heelish thing, but Elias hasn't really been a big super baby face. He hasn't changed his character that much from being a baby face to a heel. So yeah, I'm okay with him eliminating the way that he did.
For the most part, all bets are off with the Royal Rumble. So everybody that's going nuts over like Elias is heel now, Alexa Bliss is whatever, and so give it a night. See what happens on Monday Night Raw. That's how you can really judge things. Shinsuke Nakamura is number 3. He was not announced for the Royal Rumble ahead of time, if I remember correctly. And that was kind of like sort of a waste in my mind because we didn't get EC3.
Yeah, a little surprising.
Yeah, none of the new signees from NXT were involved in the men's one.
Well, because when Alexa Bliss came back from her match, Otis was just staring at her, going, "Pretty lady,
I'm coming." Horrible idea that they did that. But no Lars Sullivan, no EC3, no Heavy Machinery. Did not expect Heavy Machinery. And over the course of these past couple of weeks with Lars Sullivan, I didn't expect him, but what the fuck? No EC3. That really annoyed me.
Maybe he was about to do it, but then he saw a camera and he just had to look at it instead, and someone else just stole, and Shinsuke just stole his number instead.
Well, I think he got a little phone call from Aunt Dixie that said, I think we should just let Jeff have this moment. And that's exactly what they did.
Well, that is something that I'm going to echo a point I said earlier about the Brock Lesnar thing. When people get excited about stuff and then it's like, oh, I'm disappointed that they didn't do that. And then they go, oh, WWE is going to do it this time. Remember, it's been an entire month since WWE did this whole thing where they're like, we promise that there's going to be lots of change. Think about it. Really think about it. In the past month, have you felt like this has been a revolution? Has it come off as we are changing so many things and we're really trying our hardest? Or did they just dangle some keys in front of you?
SmackDown looks better than Raw on the change side.
SmackDown was better than Raw before the change.
But I mean that they show more change.
I don't see really any change on either end.
Yeah, I completely disagree with that. Yeah, don't see any change. They're just
look
a better show.
Look at what's happened with the NXT people. They put out those names and they were like, well, look at that. These names are coming. They've had 1 match with Heavy Machinery, I think. Nikki Cross has had maybe 2. And Lacey Evans finally shows up tonight and does something. And EC3's been standing backstage, and he doesn't even get into the Royal Rumble. And Lars Sullivan, he's dealing with his own thing, which maybe that wasn't necessarily their fault, but at the same time, it's still something that you kind of factor in there. And we've got like, well, we promised we're going to change the Raw Tag Team titles around, and we get nothing. And we get the whole like, everything's kind of just like we promised there was going to be a big change, and it's been an entire month, and we're getting like, well, AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan again, same old match and stuff like that. So not feeling all that good about that. Feeling a little bit disappointed about Kurt Angle in this too. Kurt Angle comes in at number 4, and he only lasts enough to hang around past number 5.
Yeah,
doesn't look that good.
I don't know what happened with Kurt Angle, but like, they're not even trying to make him a serious threat. As like, how Triple H will come back and he'll do a match and it'll be like, oh, that was kind of fun. He's a serious legend. I don't get that vibe with Kurt.
The only thing that I cling to in that regard is the fact that Nakamura eliminated him makes me think that maybe they might do a United States title match between Kurt Angle and Shinsuke Nakamura, but it just seemed to be Kurt Angle in and out.
Yeah, easy, Callum. Mark DeFelis is my gimmick, not yours.
Well, I'd rather that than the Fatal 4-Way we're probably going to get, but Just me.
That's true. That's true.
I kind of bought it more as just Kurt Angle was like, I'd like it if Shinsuke knocked me out.
He actually lost. Again, wrestling history facts. Angle lost the IWGP Heavyweight Championship to Shinsuke Nakamura about 13. No, it's probably close to like 10 or 11 years ago. So it might be a callback to that.
Maybe. Could just be that, like, hey, you're my bud. Why don't you get me out of the match? That kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I don't think anything really big is going to happen here. I thought that they were going to do something with Kurt Angle and Drew McIntyre, but now I'm not thinking so much.
I think it's pretty clear where they're going with Drew McIntyre now.
We had Big E, then we had a surprise with Johnny Gargano. Not really all that much that stood out for me with Gargano in this. He lasted until like 14, 15, but I don't really have any notes about him or anything.
One thing that stands out to me, it wasn't too much, but one thing was Big E, it's a tornado DDT. You fall down once he's like done the final rotation. Don't just stand up and then like drop to your knee and then collapse onto it. Like, he must be the only person in the last year and a half who's had a bad wrestling move with Johnny Gargano involved.
That's true. Jinder Mahal comes out after that. He gets quickly eliminated by Johnny Gargano. Samoa Joe follows.
He was WWE champion for 6 months.
Yep.
The thing's got beaten up as well, and force-fed pancakes.
Yeah. Samoa Joe comes out after that, and he takes out Big E. Then we get Kurt Hawkins, who shows up and comes into the ring, leaves the ring, comes into the ring, leaves the ring, plays around a little bit. Seth Rollins comes out. We get Titus O'Neil. Titus O'Neil does a little fun spot where he is like praying that he's not going to trip on the way down to the ramp. I like that. And he's very, very quickly eliminated by Kurt Hawkins. Which, do we constitute this a win? Sorta? Doubt it, but hey, it's more of a win than he's been getting. Titus
O'Neil likes to make it a win. So I'm assuming.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to make it a win, make it a win.
Yeah.
Words to live by. Then Kurt Hawkins gets eliminated by Samoa Joe. So, really fast. A little bit of information there. Kofi Kingston comes out. Mustafa Ali follows that. Mustafa Ali takes out Shinsuke Nakamura, which, of course, starts to bring out the suggestion he's going to be one of those people in the Fatal 4-Way.
Or he might even get the match well beforehand and maybe even get the title.
Maybe. Could be that they put it back on Nakamura just to put it on Mustafa Ali.
I'd be fine with that.
Followed by Dean Ambrose, and then we get No Way Jose, No Way Jose comes out, and he immediately gets eliminated. He lasted, according to the Wikipedia thing, which may be a little bit off, 2 seconds, and then he just fucks off, because that was, better than putting somebody like EC3 in the match, right?
Yeah.
No, it was, because fucking Drew McIntyre comes out and manhandles the Congo line before getting into the ring.
Headbutts a couple of them, takes a couple out. Could have been more entertaining, I think, if they would have done something a little bit more behind it, though.
Yeah, there could have been another option for the choice, but at the end of the day, it was just spots to be filled up. So I guess it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
We had Xavier Woods, and then we get our second spot, which earlier in the night, Kofi Kingston saved himself by doing something very similar to what we've sort of seen, but with a little bit of a twist to it, literally. He kept himself in the match by keeping his feet on the, he kept one foot up. It seemed like he almost kind of tapped it. I don't know. We might have to really kind of pay attention to that. But he twirls himself around and keeps himself in. And then once Xavier Woods comes in, Drew McIntyre knocks Kofi Kingston out. But Xavier Woods is able to catch him, and he keeps him held up a little bit. And then, of course, the two of them get eliminated anyway, because that's how you do things.
This was the most contrived of Kofi's save spots that I've ever seen. Because it's quite clear both feet at some point or another touched the ground on that one. Because there's no way you can do that without one of your, at least of a case of one of your feet touched the ground and then the other one touched it while the other one's still in the air. And I don't know how vague the rules are, what subsection of the rule book that this falls into, but yeah, I think they reached too far on this one.
It wasn't the best executed. It wasn't the most fun. It wasn't the best, but I still like that they do these kind of things. So I don't want to be like crapping on it too much, you know. Still a positive to me.
But Tony, you've seen it every year. Why aren't you bored of it so far? It's like
it's still slightly different. It's still slightly different.
I thought it was fun just because it's so goofy, and I'm waiting for the year where he just gets out immediately.
Yeah, I kind of wanted that. Like I mentioned before, it'd be kind of fun if somebody just was like, "No, fuck you. You don't get to do it this year. I'm a heel. I screwed you over." The end.
Well, that's why I went for him as the shortest time, and I got screwed over by. I didn't realize that no way Jose was going to be in this match.
I don't think anybody knew that he was going to be in this. I don't think Noah Jose had any idea that he would be in this match.
Yeah.
Number 18 was Pete Dunne. That was a surprise, sorta. We kind of all sort of saw that one coming, but hey, it's still cool. Andrade was number 19. Apollo Crews was number 20. And at first, I thought that the graphic on the screen where it just said Apollo, I was like, God damn it, they took a Crews off again. And then it was like, actually, it's still Apollo Crews. So
Cole referring to him as the sleeper pick. Like, you're funny, Cole. You're such an idiot.
I like how on his tights it said it was too easy, and it's like, you don't have a shot, dude. It's not too easy. You're not gonna last. He only lasted until number 23.
Sleeper pick?
Cole, obviously, because who else would say that? Who else would be stupid enough to say that?
Jeez. Yeah, that's reaching even for Michael Cole.
Aleister Black was 29. That was fun. He takes out Dean Ambrose, so maybe there's something there. I don't know. Actually, that might be the EC3 spot. Because we had heard a couple little bit of rumors that EC3 was going to fight Dean Ambrose, and I never quite understood what that feud was going to be about. And Aleister Black and Dean Ambrose, a little bit darker. That could be fun. I think that might be a better direction. Shelton Benjamin was number 22. He needs to go back to the Ain't No Stopping Me now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't... Well, he's not around enough to really make it matter anyway, so... And... He had a decent performance here, but I don't really see him coming back. And he's going to be in the United States title picture now, or he's at least going to have a feud on the lower card with, I don't know, Ty Dillinger or something like that, who didn't even make an appearance on this match either. So
I really would love to see Shelton go to NXT.
I did like Shelton's new, long tights. I thought he had a cool look, different than anything I've seen him in his career, so I like that.
Samoa Joe gets eliminated by Mustafa Ali, which kind of makes it seem like Samoa Joe might be in that Fatal 4-Way type thing. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Baron Corbin comes out. There goes Apollo Crews. Jeff Hardy comes out. And what the fuck was Jeff Hardy wearing?
Oh, I don't know. But you know what's crazy? Is girls still go wild for him.
Cool. And just to go back to Corbin, can Corbin just go? Like, completely?
Yeah.
I still like Corbin.
See, this is why your opinions on this stuff. Like, no.
Well, see, because Corbin's not offensive to me. Like, he's never really doing anything that's, like, that big or that important. Like, realistically, he comes in at number 23. He's gone by number 28.
Yeah, but he's there for that
But
time.
what do you mean? Like, they just... November and December were fucking built around Corbin.
That's because we had Brock Lesnar as the champion, and you had no other option.
If we wouldn't have blame Lesnar for them pushing Corbin.
That's definitely Lesnar's fault.
Wait a minute.
Look at the time that Baron Corbin was. Well, that's because that's WWE's fault.
Yeah, it's WWE's fault. So don't say, it's because Lesnar thing. It's like Lesnar didn't have any say in it. Lesnar probably looks at Corbin and says, "What are you doing putting this Joker in this position?"
Look at this. When you turn up. When you get a disease, you cure the disease, but you also blame who's the one that contracted it for you if you got it from somebody else.
Let me tell you.
It's WWE and Brock Lesnar that are at fault here.
I would be much more fine with Corbin if he was still doing, the Lone Wolf thing. But the random metal theme song with the corporate casual, with the shaved head, it's weird.
Yeah, he does need to change his ring gear. I'll give you that. But, he was just another guy in this. Like, he didn't do anything that was offensive. He popped in. He eliminated 2 people.
It's just his mere presence is offensive to me. So, He could have been in there for 2 seconds. Those 2 seconds would have been the worst 2 seconds of the entire Royal Rumble for me. He's getting that bad. He's worse than Ziggler for me now.
Ooh. We'll talk about him in a minute.
Yeah, that was bad as well.
Mysterio is 25, Bobby Lashley is 26, and Bobby Lashley lasted sub 1 minute. He's not in there long at all, which is really kind of crazy.
I think that was a mistake.
Like, you think? I didn't read that as a mistake.
I think the mistake was that he was meant to go straight over and he got caught up in the ropes, and so they had to kick him off a little bit afterwards. Because obviously they did the spot with the him putting Rollins through the table afterwards, so it was clearly that Lashley was going to get eliminated quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Also, and that I think is their attempt at setting up something that Seth Rollins can do for February and March because Brock Lesnar won't be around.
Spoiler: Seth Rollins.
Nah, everybody knows what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that entirely was just to keep that going. And that's kind of another little thumbs down from me. Braun Strowman is number 27. He eliminates a bunch of different people. And number 28, surprise, surprise, the guy who's on hiatus, who said, fuck you to the people that said, we'll see you at the Royal Rumble, dude. Dolph Ziggler.
Okay, let me take this one, because I know that I'm Mr. Ziggler when it comes to this podcast, but this pissed me off. Because it's like,
too.
What the fuck are you... It's not even funny. Like, we were talking about Sam Roberts yesterday. Oh, he's working people. No, like, you're not that big of a deal to keep teasing that you're leaving, and then you show up in the Royal Rumble and you don't even win. Ever. Like, it just stop acting like you're a big deal. Either be a big deal or stop acting like you are one. You know what I mean?
What's the exact phrase? It's something along the lines of, a master doesn't call himself a master, other people call him that.
I'm just getting the sense of, I know what you guys are saying, that it's like he's not that important, that you seem to have taken it pretty hard. Seems to have worked what he was doing. So you know me, I'm remiss to giving any sort of praise to Ziggler, but he worked a load of trolls again. Just like what I said with Sam Roberts. I like it when wrestlers take oversensitive wrestling fans and put them through the ringer. Because what else should they be expecting at this point?
See, it doesn't bother me that he tried to do this and that he popped up. What bothers me is that it doesn't really matter. And it's not so much like, oh, you got me. Because it's like, if he would have shown up or wouldn't have shown up, I wouldn't have cared at this point. Because I really kind of want Ziggler to just kind of take a little bit of time off and stuff. But I look at it more as like, I was supposed to care and I don't, and that annoys me.
Oh yeah, that's the other element of it, is the fact that even if Ziggler does do this and he does work people, it doesn't matter because it's Ziggler, and Ziggler doesn't stand for anything or mean anything at this point in his career.
I mean, he eliminated Drew McIntyre, and now that means Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler aren't done yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to see another match between those two because I just kind of am not invested in it. So when WWE does those kind of things, and that's the same as what I've been mentioning for a couple different things here, the Charlotte and Asuka thing, the Charlotte and Becky thing, the Brock Lesnar and anybody type thing, if you put something out there, you know, Daniel Bryan and Eric Rowan, if you dangle a carrot in front of me and I don't like carrots, I'm not going to bite. You know, like, oh man, Ziggler got Drew McIntyre out. He's going to be so pissed. I can't wait until that happens and he gets his comeuppance. Nah, I can wait. Like, I'm cool with that. Them not continuing to pull that thread.
My whole issue with that is it also makes McIntyre look more weak because, again, it's Ziggler. We are trained to know that you don't see him as a prime player, so whatever you're doing with him, we know it's a placeholder. You know what I mean?
Sure, you mentioned obviously now the fact that this was McIntyre's last action in the match that McIntyre's facing John Cena at WrestleMania, right? Because they made it pretty clear on commentary that the reason why Cena was injured and not part of this match is because McIntyre took him out.
I can look.
I didn't catch that.
I didn't hear that either, but I
very clearly heard in Cole's thing that he said that that Cena's injury is due to McIntyre's attack, or McIntyre doing it in the match. Yeah, so I'm pretty certain it'll be McIntyre Cena at WrestleMania.
I mean, it's not going to be Ziggler. Like, that's going to be the
No.
build-up thing
Yeah.
in the meantime to just kind of waste some time for February and March. And since this Lars Sullivan thing isn't working out, then McIntyre Cena does make sense. It's not going to be Kurt Angle based off of what they did tonight. So I was wrong about that for sure. McIntyre Cena, that's that'll be the Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins part of the night. Or the Randy Orton Kane, or whatever. Randy Orton did a lot of those, didn't he?
Well, speaking of the guy,
oh yeah, number 29, Randy Orton. Speaking of the devil,
you must think there's my own personal hell that Ziggler comes out and then Randy Orton. It's like, wow, you're really ending this Rumble off strong for me.
Oh no, they made it even better with you with number 30.
Oh fuck.
So Orton comes out, and I don't have anything written down that anything happens after that except for number 30. And number 30 is R-Truth that we all knew ahead of time, and he gets attacked by Nia fucking Jax. And she is allowed to take his spot. And I am going to probably piss some people off here, but what the fuck is the point of the Women's Battle Royal?
Damn right.
If they have a woman in the men's.
Damn fucking right.
I don't understand how you're also in an environment where you are upset about the idea that you can't have mixed tag matches because you don't want any kind of interference between a man hitting a woman, which, of course, I have to preface this because people are stupid and they'll think that I'm trying to say the opposite thing. Not condoning people hitting each other, but that means I'm also not condoning women hitting men because you can't, it's a two-way street. Shouldn't be like men can get beat the shit up from a woman and then if they touch them, that it's the worst thing in the world. You can't have everything both ways. You can't have it to where it's like, well, can't do that because we can't have them touch each other, but let's put Nia Jax in there and then celebrate the idea of her getting attacked and stuff. It's just like, what's the point? And why are you pushing Nia Jax as well? After all the things that have just happened, this was just to make Nia Jax look fucking interesting and all that. And we just went through a whole thing of her not being this trustworthy person that you can put all that weight into. I don't understand this at all. Fundamentally, I just don't understand the idea that they had another woman in a men's match, too. Like, that's just stupid to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the biggest grievance that I'd have with it, is the sense that you're not going to see Ty Dillinger realising that he's not in the men's Rumble match enter himself into the women's Rumble match because people would complain about it. Like, are you giving up a women's spot for a man? It's basically the same as Ellsworth being in the Money in the Bank match or Santina Morella being in the Women's Battle Royal. The only difference being that Nia Jax didn't win. If Nia Jax had won, then people would be even more apoplectic about it. But there is obviously that argument. But again, it's just a case of whether we like it or not, the crowd popped for it. And the crowd really enjoyed Nia Jax being in it, and they enjoyed seeing her get beaten up by a load of men.
So did Jerry Lawler.
Because at the end of the day, wrestling fans haven't really changed that much. And they still get excited. The Dudleys got over in WWE based on the fact they put women through tables. And violence towards women has always been a WWE thing that gets a reaction. And they turned against it for a very long time, but it just means that when it does happen now, it gets even a louder pop because it's a rare thing to see. And the crowd was baying for blood when they saw that Orton was about to go for an RKO. They were desperate to see Nia Jax get hit with an RKO. And then eventually she does get hit with a super kick, a 619, and an RKO. And the crowd goes crazy. It's one of the biggest pops of the entire night.
Because I think that there was an idea that we probably won't see it, because last time we saw that was in a Royal Rumble as well, with Beth Phoenix getting hit with the GTS. And...
Karma too.
But she didn't get... Did she take a finisher?
She got... Ziggler got her out. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think she took maybe a zigzag or something along those lines.
Well,
but
it was good, but it doesn't, for me, excuse the fact of, okay, but if women, why are women allowed to do this? Like, it would have been funny if R-Truth would have done the inverse and then, like, I'm here, number 30, in the women's world, that would have been funny. But why have Nia attack R-Truth? Like, what the hell was Nia going to do if she won the Royal Rumble?
Well,
You
what
know,
would have been funny if R-Truth had gone in the women's one, but
Yeah, I wouldn't have left about that
yeah,
necessarily if he
it's
would
a
have.
sense of like that's if both would happen, then fine. But
If he would have come out and tried to, and they wouldn't have let him,
that would have been funny.
then that would have been the case. If they would have let him in the women's, I would have been just as annoyed about it because I would have been like, "Why the fuck you?" Like, I actually almost brought it up earlier. Why is Hornswoggle in the women's match? Like,
He's
I
not
didn't like
in the
that
women's
either.
match.
You know,
He was just
yeah, he
under
was a
the ring
part of
during
it
the women's
on the
match.
side, but it was still just sort of like I could see somebody complaining about that, and then now it's like, well, can't complain about that because you got Nia Jax as an official person in the men's. And it's not the same as it was a couple years ago where we didn't have the women's one. And I think that this is fundamentally a stupid thing that, of course, people are going to just jump down throats on and be like, if you're complaining about that, you must hate women. And it's like, oh, God damn it. No, I'm saying that I want them to have their own match. I am so incredibly happy that they have the women's Royal Rumble matches now. And you don't need to put Nia Jax into the men's.
But
my guess, honestly, is that they had something else, and whatever it was didn't work out.
and
I think that they did it specifically to try to be like, let's put Nia Jax in that same tier as like, isn't she great? Because look at the people that they've put in the men's match: Beth Phoenix, Chyna, Karma, and Nia Jax, the big women. Beth Phoenix isn't big, but she was like the tough one. You know, everybody kind of equated her to like the new Chyna, like, but not as muscular and whatever like that. So they have a type when it comes to this, and they were like, Nia Jax is big, let's do it. She can fight with the men. And it's just I hated it. I hated that so much.
this could
And that's
also
the final surprise too. That's the big like, that's the number 30 thing, and it's like, oh fuck you, you know.
there's also the issue of like over time we'll have to find this out, but whether this is an indication towards more intergender wrestling in regards of men hitting women and women hitting men in regards of to the mixed match challenge and other sort of matches like that, whether we're actually going to see mixed wrestling going down the line. For someone like Nia Jax who has the size and build to take on a lot of the men and not feel out of place.
For that matter too, if WWE gets hit with a bunch of complaints about this from people thinking that this is condoning violence against women, which of course, if you look at the context of it, she entered a match where she's fighting a bunch of men, and why wouldn't the men want to still win the match? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that's, semantics and stuff. But if they get hit with a bunch of people going, oh my God, WWE is about like violence against women. Look at that. They kicked this woman and whatever. They have nobody to blame but themselves. They did not need to do it.
And I
And they
would say
took the risk.
And I would say to all those people complaining, you need to get a life, really, probably. Just to
Pretty much 90% of the world needs to get a life
Yeah.
nowadays.
I would
You're
also,
either the type of person who's causing all the fucking problems, and, that's one side on the right, and then you're the people that are bitching about every single thing in the world. And then, it's like, can't we be in a happy medium where people are just sane nowadays,
it was interesting because I think throughout the night, I noted 2 "This is awesome" chants. And this was the second one out of the 2 of them. It's like, yay, take an RKO from Randy Orton on a woman, and that's a "This is awesome" chant.
Oddly enough, too, it's like this is the second thing that Orton's done that makes him kind of a babyface.
I think, well, I don't know whether it's a babyface or. I mean, I know Nia Jax is a heel, and she came in that regard, but I don't know if I can ever class hitting your finishing move on a woman as a babyface act. It's not like he looked like a babyface afterwards, because Mysterio was just looking at him saying, "What the fuck, man? You just hit that move on her," and he looks a little bit guilty about the entire situation. Maybe that's a bit babyface sympathetic, but I don't
Oh,
think.
Mysterio hits her too, though. So it's like,
True, but I just don't.
it's like, what the fuck, man? I would have hit her first. Like, I kind of think.
I guess there's the difference with the RKO, but I don't know if there's anywhere leaning all one way or the other at the moment.
We had that elimination thing, which thumbs down for the whole Nia Jax involvement in this. In my part, Randy Orton eliminates Rey Mysterio. Randy Orton gets eliminated by Andrade. Andrade gets eliminated by Braun Strowman. Then we're down to the final 3, which is Ziggler, Strowman, and Rollins. And I don't imagine anybody had Ziggler, Strowman, Rollins, and Andrade as their final four. But if they did, kudos to you. Ziggler gets taken out by Braun Strowman, and Braun Strowman eventually gets taken out by Seth Rollins in what I thought was originally going to be just a repeat of the 2004 Benoit Big Show thing. And I'm glad that they didn't do that. I'm glad that they went with the curb stomp.
That was a good spot.
But with Seth Rollins winning, that kind of reiterates that whole Brock Lesnar thing, and I already talked my ear off about that. So it wasn't a bad Royal Rumble to me. And for that matter, the Women's Royal Rumble wasn't all that bad either. It's like these both weren't great, and they're not going to be ones that I really want to go back to and revisit, because there weren't tons of surprises and there weren't like tons of fun spots and stuff. But they were my two favorite matches of the night because of just like the gaga and all that, as Pat Patterson would say. And it pissed me off about some things, like the Nia Jax thing annoyed the shit out of me. And I think that they missed the boat on a couple different things, like no EC3. And I don't think we needed to have like 4 or 5 people that were quickly eliminated and some different things like that. But more importantly than anything, I just felt kind of meh at the end of this. Because it's just, all right, Seth Rollins won, okay. Well, we're going to get that match at WrestleMania. I'm glad I didn't get WrestleMania tickets. Shouldn't feel that way, you know?
Wow, it may be more than usual, and I don't know if it's just because it's super late, but like you are really down on Lesnar today.
Anytime that Lesnar pops up, it's just a reminder that I just hate it. And I felt this way exactly. This is why at Crown Jewel I had that big rant about it, because I was like, I know I'm going to have to deal with this for the next X amount of months. And here's another element of it. It's just another part of it. And I don't care. Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar to me is a match that I saw at the Royal Rumble in 2015 with John Cena involved. And that was a good enough match. But I had seen that when they were better and when they were putting on a better scenario. And I don't care to see it again in any context, let alone this is a big WrestleMania thing. If this was a main event for Backlash, I wouldn't really care, you know? So you're selling me on the biggest pay-per-view of the year, and the way that you're going into it right now is Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar, which is like, all right, well, I don't really need to see it. Just tell me whether or not Lesnar dropped the title. Possibility of the next 2 months dealing with a Charlotte Flair thing that I'm not going to really dig all that much. Maybe she fights Asuka. Maybe it's a great match. Hopefully everything is great. But you're going to have to sell me on that, because you're not selling me yet. The Daniel Bryan and Eric Rowan thing, totally haven't sold me on that yet. That's kind of how I feel. It's sort of like, this is the thing to advertise the next 3 months. And I'm not buying the pitch yet.
Well, just to give like my overview forward to the entire show, I was very conflicted about the entire situation, because I think the Rumbles, as the namesakes for the entire show, are the things that will guide my overall opinion of the entire thing. Because the other matches range from like very good matches to the really boring Bryan Styles match. But the Rumbles themselves, I thought, were both very weak. Maybe not very weak, but weak enough. One of them was reasonably fun. I preferred the women's to the men's Rumble. I thought the men's one was very stagnant, and there was a lot of just bodies in there that had no business being in this sort of match, and it felt a bit more just by the numbers constrained. Whereas the women's one at least tried to be fun, at least tried to be different, tried to be a bit more inventive with the way they were approaching things. And yeah, so I preferred the women's one, but they'd both probably go down as weak Rumbles in my book.
For me, I also preferred the women's one, because oddly enough, I was going into it with the idea of, I'm not saying Becky until they show her, you know, and I was convinced, if anything, it's Charlotte, unless they want to go with an underdog. With the men's Rumble, now that it's over, yes, I did pick a surprise entrant to win it, but everybody else knew this was the Seth Rollins show. And I was kind of wondering if they would, book a surprise to get around that. But I think down the line, this will not be a memorable match. This will just be a thing that was like, oh yeah, this was how Rollins got to Mania where he fought Brock Lesnar. And I don't know. Good show. I'm not going to say anything too negative because at the end of the day, they've made people happy. And that's what their job is. And they definitely put over two people who are crazy over with their hardcore audience. So, good on them.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest takeaway, is that even if the Rumbles themselves weren't super special, for once they chose the two right winners for it. So good on them for doing that.
I hate to be so negative about something like that, but I guess the best way that I could be positive about it and uplifting is to say it could have been worse. Like that kind of a thing. At least we're not in a situation where it's so like vehemently like, oh man, people are pissed, like what they were a couple different years,
Yeah.
Just think of like the alternate situations. You could have had Flair and Strowman, and those two would have been a really negative way of ending the show.
Well, I mean, there could have been so many different ways that they could have fucked this up even more. And like my criticisms behind this aren't so much that I like hate and detest everything. It's just I feel so meh about it for what should be the best pay-per-view of the year that we're building towards. And it's just sort of, if everything's blah, then it's not good, I mean, I like to equate things to meals a lot because I think that that's a universal thing. If you go to a restaurant and you're not wowed, you tend to not come back. You might get, a different meal the next time. You might get something, and maybe the cook was a little bit different or something like that. You never know. But like, if you get pizza and it's halfway decent, but it's not great, and then you get pizza from another place and it's awesome, you're going to go back to that place that's awesome. You're not going to go back to the okay place, But this is just okay, and it's...
But I would take the okay pizza over, hey, let's go to Papa John's. And
well, at that point, Papa John's is the equivalent of you give the women's match to Hornswoggle to win. And, Papa John's blows.
Well, we've seen some Papa John's scenarios where it's like, really?
I like that this is a thing now. Papa John's scenarios.
It's like, really? And Callum's right. They could have easily had Charlotte throw Becky over, and they could have easily had Braun Strowman throw Rollins over, and had you trying to get excited about Braun versus Brock at Mania. So I'm much happier with this than what I know that they easily could have done.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't know, I guess that's take what you want to take away from it. Leave your comments below and tell us what you think about it, because maybe you are super, super thrilled. Maybe you are super annoyed. I don't know, whatever the case may be, your mileage may vary. Just leave your comments below and tell us your thoughts on the 2019 Royal Rumble and how you think things are going forward. Also, if you want to, toss out some questions for the mailbag, because we're going to be getting into that next week. We have the hot tags as well coming up, and another little special thing that we're going to be putting up later on, a day or so from now too. So stay tuned for those things, and the best way to be aware of when those things are uploaded onto the channel is to subscribe on the YouTube channel and ring that bell for the notifications that you will get when those things get published. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment. Follow SmarkOutMoment.com for all the other things that are happening there. Go to fanboysanonymous.com if you want to check out my movie review type website for those kind of things and follow all that kind of related material. There are the TeePublic and Redbubble shops for A Mango Tees and Smart Out Moment and Fanboys Anonymous. There are Patreon accounts for Fanboys and for Smart Out Moment. So if you have some spare change that you want to help us keep the lights on, those are ways that you can do that. And everything else that's happening all over the place. If you click around, you will find a lot of things that we have going on here. So I'm going to pass this around to the other two gentlemen to give their plugs. Callum?
You can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out this week's Power Rankings and Women's Wrestling Weekly, because I wrote both of those, and all the other weekly stuff we've got going on Smoke Out Moment. And I guess I can announce this now because it's finally in the process of being done and readied up. The first edition of our, hosted by me and accompanied by Robert D. Felice for this edition. The first edition of 2001 A Wrestling Odyssey, where we do a retro podcast looking back in the year 2001, the year when WWE essentially took control of the wrestling world, and the coincidental nature of the fact that this is the year they might lose that stranglehold on the wrestling world, but we'll wait and see how that develops. But check out the first one, which just look at the events of January and the 3 biggest shows from January, which were ECW's Guilty as Charged, WCW Sin, and the Royal Rumble from 2001, which was a far better show than this one.
Oh, yes. Much.
Royal Rumble 2001 is really fun.
And
Rob?
for me, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. You can check out eWrestling News and WrestleZone.com for your daily wrestling news. And I'm on the WrestleZone Daily Podcast on Facebook every weekday at about 6 p.m. Eastern. Sometimes it's 6:30, maybe even 7. We had 20,000 people reached for the Fast Food Royal Rumble. Now, I'm only mentioning that here because one of those people who was very supportive of this was Peter. And thank you, Peter. I appreciate the support, and it was a great experience. And outside of all that fun stuff, you can check out my clothing brand at timekillerapparel.com, and I will see you guys tomorrow for the hot tags.
Yes, indeed. Hot tags are coming up, everybody, so stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for all the other things we have going on. We will see you then. Adios. For now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.